Hey Randy, how you doing? Congrats on the signing.
I'm doing well. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So I just want to ask you, what do you know about Todd Bowles' defense, and what kind of attracted you to come and be a part of that group and part of this team this year?
Well, yeah, I actually spoke with Coach. I remember coming out of college during the draft and speaking with him a bunch. Loved his personality, loved his down to earth demeanor. No nonsense type of guy. I think I always thrive well when I work with coaches like that. And I think ultimately, Coach Edwards, I worked with him obviously in Dallas. Have a relationship there. I think highly of him. I think the ability as far as the schemes and what we do, I fit well there. Being able to play, I could play inside, outside, on third down, things like that. Stand up, put my hand down in the dirt. To be able to play kind of in a 3-4-4-3 scheme, do a couple of different things there, dropping coverage. This is all stuff I've done in Dallas, in Denver, and in San Fran. So for me, it was a real good spot to land in.
And then, as far as the Bucs have a lot of youth on this team at the outside linebacker room, what kind of mentorship, leadership do you bring to the table for those guys who are still trying to, carve their own NFL path? Thank you.
Well, I've been through a lot. I will say that. I think anyone that knows me knows my story. So definitely a lot of experience. I've won a lot of games in different uniforms. I've had playoff success in different uniforms. I've had up and downs as far as production, as far as me as a player and a person. So I have a lot of experience. I can help the guys in that way. Never been one to been a nuisance in a locker room. So I feel good as far as my influence with them. And like you said, they're young, so they'll be sponges. They'll absorb stuff. I can learn from them. They can learn from me. Really think it's a good opportunity.
Greg Almond.
Hey, Randy, just want to ask you what kind of role you thought you might have on this defense. Obviously, they've got a lot of young guys back, but whether you expected to be a starter, I think you played, 400 plus snaps last year between the two stops. Just what kind of role you see?
Well, I mean, at this point in my career, I don't go in expecting or anything like that. I wouldn't say that. I expect to help and expect to influence the team how I know I can and make plays the way I know I can. At the end of the day, it's really what you make it, and I expect to come in here and keep my head down. And like I said, I know Coach Bowles. I know what he expects. I know what Coach Edwards expects. I think it's big to have a guy that obviously Coach Edwards has worked with before. So be able to be in that room and do things the way I know how he wants it done. It'll be real easy for me. I don't, to answer your question, I don't really expect to start or anything like that. I don't go in, um, with my mind made up about stuff. I'm gonna go in there and earn every rep I have. And, when I'm not in there, I'm gonna try to help out the guys that are in there.
Thanks, Randy.
River Wells.
Hey, Randy. Congratulations on the signing. I wanted to ask, we've talked about coaches, obviously, that you have some familiarity with, but do you have any relationships with any of the players here that you'll be joining in Tampa Bay or anyone you're particularly excited to work with going forward?
No close relationships. I've been telling guys around here, Mike Evans, me and him had the same agent for a few years coming into the league. So, I've spoken with him. I know about him and his family. Great guy, great player. Levante David, obviously me going to Nebraska and, him being a Nebraska legend out there, have a lot of respect for him coming out from the same school. So there's a few guys. There's guys that obviously aren't on the team anymore that I was a fan of. There's guys that I played against last year with San Fran. Obviously Baker. I have a lot of respect for him as a quarterback. Rashad White. There's a lot of guys. Worse, there's a lot of guys on the team that they may not know, but I've always kind of considered myself a fan before a player. I think a lot of guys were. We've always been fans of the league, and so whether guys are coming out of college or guys are obviously on other teams, I've always kept up with them, and excited to be able to call them teammates now.
Jenna Lane.
Hi, Randy. Congratulations. Welcome to Tampa.
Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. You mentioned the 49ers. You got to go and play in the biggest game of them all this past year. Just what was it like being part of that? I know it's not easy when you're playing for two different teams in one season.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. I think for me, I'm big on comfortability, so to have to make that switch middle of the year and essentially not finish my end of the deal with Denver was tough. And obviously, going to a new spot was tough too. My biggest thing was being able to go there and kind of integrate myself in a non-threatening way and as organic as I can make it. And like I said earlier, make plays where I can and help out when I'm not out there. So it was tough. But it was fun at the same time. Some of those guys, some of the best players in the league, I got a chance to play with. And, as a kid, I've always dreamed about obviously making it in the NFL and making it to the Super Bowl. So to be able to say I experienced that is big. Obviously, I wanted to get the win. But hopefully I can do that this year. I'm coming with, Tampa Bay. I think obviously you guys have had success here over the past few years. And, we have a great team right there set up to make another run. So that's what I intend on doing, is trying to help in that way.
How much of a victory was that for you this past year to be able to make a full season? Because I believe the previous year you had the injuries, and then of course, you mentioned before you had the suspensions, but just to be able to make a full season like that, what did that mean for you?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think as athletes, we always go in with certain goals we want to achieve, whether that be our career or, the upcoming season. And my biggest thing was being able to play a full season. Like you said, I haven't played a full season in the league. I only played one full season in college, and whether it be suspensions or injuries, something played in effect. So to be able to play a full year and not only that, but obviously get to the Super Bowl. It's most games I've played my whole entire football career since ever I can remember. So that was my biggest goal. I felt like if I could finish the year healthy and go into the next year healthy, obviously that'd be good for my future. And I hope I can do the same, finish out my career in a healthy way and a winning way.
Thank you.
Scott Smith.
Hey, Randy, congratulations. You're following in the footsteps of a guy like Shaq Barrett, and you've seen his level of production at its best. When you look at this defense and where you are in your career, and you mentioned the goals that you've kind of set for yourself, and one of those being trying to stay healthy. How much optimism do you have stepping into this role as you've seen those guys have big sack years in this defense?
A lot. I think at the end of the day, like I said, I want to go somewhere I'm comfortable with, somewhere I know I can play and help. And, a big part of that, obviously, they go hand in hand. If our offense is doing well and can put points on the board and get the other team behind, your opportunities for pass rushes go up. So obviously that plays into it. I'm lucky enough to be on teams where we had good offenses, and I expect the same, coming here. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to answer your question. I'm excited. Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for me and others to make plays in the passing game, the run game, things like that, and make a good run.
We'll go to Evan Winter. If media have questions, please raise your hand.
Hey, Randy, congrats on everything, man. I hope you're doing well. So to go back to words you used like influence and to help your teammates and playing alongside the best players in the league, obviously obviously you've played with a wide variety of pass rushers over the last, few years, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, even interior guys like Javon Hargrave and Draymond Jones. What have you picked up from them on top of your own abilities that can help you and your teammates, thrive essentially in this defense?
I mean, there's different ways to win. I think we've I pride myself in my athleticism, and I've always done that. Coming up in the football ranks, and a lot of ways that's how I won. One of the things I learned, especially with like a guy like Nick, is just his approach to the preparation of things. Not just being able to go out and do it in a live setting in practice or in the game, but the active preparation it takes to get to that point, whether it be the weight room, the stretching, training facility, diet, film, is probably the biggest thing. But there's a lot of different things that some of these better players, better pass rushers have done that I've noticed. And I kind of try to incorporate that into my own life, and not just on the field, but off the field. And so, I tend to do the same things. I think at the end of the day, you got to keep learning as an athlete, as a person. I think the day you stop doing that is the day you stop evolving and, reaching the potential that you can get to. So for me, like I said, just trying to hone in on the skills I do have, and then trying to incorporate some new ones and different techniques. And, I'm going to do the same thing with the guys here, and I hope they do the same with me.
We have time for a few more. We'll go to Greg Alman.
Randy, I just want to ask you about your weight and just your body type. You've always kind of been lean and quick. Are you playing about the same weight you have been last couple of years?
I would say I'm actually probably heavier. Right now it's off season mode, so I'm, lighter than I would be during the season. Obviously this is the process of getting back up to that weight. But I think in the past, there's times my last couple of years in Dallas and maybe my first year in Denver, I was probably 247, maybe 250 max. But there's been, I think San Fran, I was probably sitting at 258. There was a year I got to Dallas, I was about 261. I had to lose a few pounds there, but I've never been a guy that's been extremely heavy. I've always floated, high 40s to mid, 50s. And I think, perfect weight for me is probably 255, 260 range. And that's probably where I'll be coming in at.
Thanks.
Last question will be from Jenna Lane.
Hey, Randy. You've done a lot of work on yourself over the years, which has been really admirable. And you've also talked about helping other people. What advice would you give, or really how can you help some of these younger players that are coming into the league that may be encountering similar challenges?
Well, I mean, first you gotta, I think for me, I've always tried to handle things myself. Growing up and having to grow up in the league, in a sense, taught me to really reach out and lean on the people that are really there to help me, and be able to kind of, filter a lot of the BS out. I think, coming in as a young guy, it's real easy to absorb everything you're seeing and everyone's doing, and try to do the same. And I think as I've gotten older, I learned that, I'm not the same as a lot of these guys. I'm not the most outgoing guy. I tend to keep to myself. But I know I understand me and understand that keeps me out of trouble. So I think for me, with some of these younger guys, helping them understand some of the dangers of being in the league and being the person you are, and helping them understand not only the football side of things as far as on the field, but a lot of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, that a lot of guys don't think about, and planning stuff out, saving money. There's a lot of things you can learn, but you got to be willing to reach out and accept it. And I think for a lot of time, for me, I wasn't able to do that. I've learned to do it to the point where I can handle my stuff on my own. And when I do struggle, I know who I can lean on. But it's never bad to ask for help. I think a lot of guys should probably tap into that more and tap into therapy more. I think mental health is a real thing that a lot of guys, majority of guys, are probably dealing with and don't really realize it. And so, you know, if that's out of whack, your game's going to be out of whack too. So, you know, for me, I don't want to dive too deep into it with the guys. Like I said, I want to be as organic as possible. And there's a time and place for it, but I'm gonna do what I need to do as far as making the right, you know, influence on them. And I'm obviously going to be one of the older guys in the D-line room and as a defense in general. So I think it's my duty to kind of pass on my experiences in the right way and kind of influence them in the right way and lead them in the right direction in the best way I know I can.
Thanks, Randy.
All right, that's all we have time for. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, guys.